Morning. Well, it's all set to be an amazing week. We're just heading out to, actually this is Monday, and we're just preparing. And the rest of the week, we're going to be paddling down the Sado River, which is something that I've wanted to be doing. I've wanted to do for a long time. It's not the most amazing river, but it's just one of those things you've got to cross off your bucket list. It's a stunning morning here in the Algarve. 5 degrees centigrade this morning, so that's where we're going to be camping. And luckily it's going up 7 to 10 degrees on Wednesday and Thursday as a minimum, and then it'll be pretty much one of these gorgeous winter's days that we've often used to.
So generally what I pack is, for breakfast I pack oats and then take nuts and raisins and things like that to put inside the oats, and a bit of peanut butter because that's great to get you a good start to the day. And then I generally pack just all these little bars, bars, Cliff bars, whatever, trail mix and stuff for the day. And then at night time you take these dehydrated packs of food. So those are all like backup food, because generally you'll find food on the way, and we're always we're not paddling through wilderness areas, so we'll find restaurants and things like that. But this particular trip, let me go through the planning with you, because there were some particular issues that we were worried about. So when you look at Portugal and you go from the Algarve up to Lisbon, driving along the highway, I always managed to cross this river called the Sado River. And when you look down at it, it looks absolutely idyllic with glistening waters and peaceful and calm. And I thought, wow, that has got to be one of the most amazing places to paddle. Let's do it. And I've been saying this for like 10 years. So eventually I said, okay, guys, let's go. I gathered a group of friends together, and we decided to go and paddle the Sado River. But when I looked a little bit more closely at it, I found these, what I managed to call them, tough sections, or tough bits, and there were 4 of them. And when you dig in real deep, you can actually not see any river at all. It's either there's some amazing trees and they're just covering the river completely, or that's just the river's completely stopped up and you can't actually get through. And can you imagine carrying my paddleboard and all the kit that you've got to camp with? It's just slogging through wet, muddy fields, and it could be pouring with rain. I just thought, well, hey, let's eliminate all the stress as much as we can, and we'll make it a lot shorter, make it just 3 days, and we'll start at this beautiful little place, and we'll do 8 Ks on the first day, 22 Ks on the next day, and then about 19 on the next. So that's exactly what we planned.
What's going on? So this is the takeout point. How's it going, Mauro? Love it. We're just going to go and check out the takeout point to see if it's going to work with the crew.
Oh, we're doing it, Nick. That's the main thing.
Yeah, we're doing it finally. I've been wanting to do the Sado for years.
Doesn't matter how it goes, we're doing it.
Looks like a fair bit of wind down there. Maybe we should go the other way.
Proper downwind this morning.
Proper.
Let me introduce you to the crew. So here's Jay from E-Flight and Villamora, and there's Tom from Algarve Marquise, Dave from Nowhere Too Far Sup, and Mauro, who's a surf instructor and lifesaver from the West Coast. And obviously there's me, your host.
So we just came down to check out the river here, and it's pretty low. And as I suspected, pretty muddy.
The mud proved to be a considerable factor that we had to gauge, and also bear in mind high tide and low tide. But when you're this far upriver, you can't get any reliable tide readings, so you have to try and gauge when you think high tide and low tide is. So it was quite a challenge, because obviously high tide is fine, you have no mud. Low tide, oodles of it.
Do Benfica. E depois fez 24 horas. 24 horas.
Did you guys know that the world record female 24 hours paddling up the
Where?
Yes, no, it was what's her name again? Ilse or somebody.
Ilse.
Something like that. Ilse.
Ilse, no.
Tom, you all ready to rock and roll, man?
Born ready, Nick. Born ready.
Oh, you're going to win, bro.
Go, man.
All right, you're all ready to rock and roll.
Did you say, will I win?
Yeah, will you win?
Win
It's
the
a
race?
race. Didn't you know it was a race?
Oh, I don't know that.
Dude, you guys are dressed for summer here. I'm actually
rock
like,
and roll, look at that. I mean, look at this. It is summer.
It is summer.
Yeah.
And I'm here dressed for bloody winter. Look at this.
Going like that, you're going to be hot.
I'm going to be hot. I'd rather be hotter than colder.
Well, no.
I'm going to strip off. I love this. I really do. It makes my heart sing. Being outside, listening to the birds, the water, the wind. It's just being a part of the elements really does it for me. And it's hard and it's tough. And I think that hardness of a trip like this really does intensify the appreciation and the pleasure. It's weird. Anyway. So technically, you're not allowed to wild camp like this in Portugal, but we feel that when we go there, we actually clean up the place more than it was before. So we always have this policy of, leave no trace. So we set up camp, some of us faster than others. I mean, I generally do not take a tent. I just have a bivvy, and I've got this really cool little bed that I bought from Decathlon. And it's fantastic to sleep outside under my bivvy bag, which is just basically an outer bag for a sleeping bag. And then we just set up, we had some food, had some beers, had some drinks. I brought along 5 liters of wine, so that turned the whole thing into a party. Cheers, man. Right, this is quite a good thing, eh? Look at that chow, Mauro. Whoa. You chowing there, Dave? What you got, bro?
Starting to.
Oh, excellent. That's always a good thing.
You're going to talk me to death and then sting me to death, you know?
Jay, what's good? Don't do personal stuff.
Are you
now,
filming
bro.
me right now?
How's
Is this for your vlog?
This is from my vlog.
This is
How's it going, bro? How's it going? Are you enjoying yourself, Tom?
No, we are in the middle of Salema on a beach.
Salema.
So anyway, so she moved to Lagos, right?
Wow, it's pretty cold this morning. Really is cold. There's frost all over the boards and stuff, and there's mist in the river. And where we've camped, it's really tricky to get in the water. Unbelievably muddy. But so I've walked about 1.5 km away to see if we can try and get into the water. And I think we can do it here. Need to walk all the way back around here onto there. The challenge with that was walking all our kit 1.5 kilometers along. So the guys opted to just try and plow through the mud, and we did, and it was really, really, really hard because this is what you saw yesterday, and it was like literally 2 meters lower than this, and just thigh-high mud. And then Mauro thwacked himself in the face with a bungee, and it was just, his eye exploded in blood. It was just, we got it cleaned up, and he was great, carried on fine. But it was quite a challenging morning. We paddled on through to Algarve do Sal and started heading up to Comporta, and this is, a fairly long stretch. It was like 22 kilometers, and it was fine because the tide was pulling us. The wind, there was no wind at all. It was glassy. It was a beautiful morning, and then suddenly the tide started turning, which we had now anticipated because we'd figured this out, and the wind started coming against us, which we knew it was going to be a slight headwind. So eventually, it just got too much. So we pulled over for a couple of hours and waited on the side of the river banks. How's it going, Tomo?
Yeah, muddy.
Muddy. It's one thing if you planned on. Yeah, there's tons of mud around here. Okay, this is knee-deep mud. You don't want to get out there.
And it was fantastic. We just chilled, dried out our stuff because a lot of the guys had got their stuff wet like the night before because of the heavy dew. And we just relaxed, waited for the tide. Then when the tide turned at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we carried on. The wind was still against us, but we carried on. It was just great, and we pushed on, and we discovered we were going to spend the night on the northern bank of the river, but we found a little bit of what appeared to be a restaurant. And we thought, well, let's try and go to a restaurant. And we beached on this little marina, sort of a wooden jetty, makeshift wooden jetty with sticks and poles, and moored up there, and then put up camp, and then headed down to try and find a restaurant.
Sorry?
You're taking your khaki down.
Makaki. What's makaki?
Your khaki, dude. Because the time to take it is just in case someone steals the bags.
Oh, good idea.
That's actually good thinking.
Yeah, but I've got all my valuables are in that bright red bag over there. So, just for you guys out there who are watching this, what we're doing is we're going to walk all the way down there to apparently where there's a restaurant. And
With beer.
with beer, yeah. So we're all rather excited because we're going to that restaurant for dinner. So it's quite the thing. But this is actually let me show you. It's a beautiful little spot that we've stopped at and made camp for the night. It's Dave's
Tent ever.
best tent ever.
Best tent ever.
All on your own, lonesome up here, buddy.
Now, there was a sixth member of the party who was trying to come, but he was really delayed by work. And we suddenly got a message saying, have we stopped to make camp yet? Unbeknownst to us, Chris had arrived in Algarve do Sul earlier in the day and had attempted to catch up with us, sneak up on us. And he was paddling against the wind, against the tide all afternoon, trying to catch up with us. And he arrived and the tide was really low and he's trying to get through the mud for about an hour. And eventually, he met up with us just as we arrived at the restaurant.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, guys. Good. So we're hoping to get dinner here, right? This restaurant's actually an old converted school, which is quite fascinating. I thought it was a school. We're just going to walk straight past, but it's actually a beautiful restaurant. Wow, that's a pretty spectacular sunset. So this is a rabbit pie, essentially.
Thank God.
We've got to introduce you to a new crew member, Chris. This is Chris. He's just paddled this most epic paddle, and he's a new member of the Sado River mission. Cheers, guys. What's that called?
Acorn liquor we got here, which is traditional allantation.
So those are some of the boys, and that little light on the left is Dave, and those lights in the back are Setúbal. It's now about 4:20 in the morning, and we have decided that we're going to go out because you can't see this over here, but it's high tide and the water is a mirror. We're going to head out now because there's no wind and the tide's going to be going out, which are perfect conditions.
What it's really all about is discovering Portugal through a slow and ancient route, the river. Now, I've done quite a few of these trips before, initially starting with Mauro and another guy called Spike Reed. We crossed the Algarve in 2015, doing 160 kilometers in 7 days, which was fantastic, really great trip. I mean, for example, this trip only took us, 2-3 days, and it was 50 Ks. But then after that Algarve trip, I gathered a group of 4 people together, including my brother, which was great fun. And we went down the river Zezere, which joins up with the Tejo River, and we managed to do 260 kilometers in 9 days, which was an amazing trip. And then in 2020, during the middle of lockdown, Tom, myself, and Chris actually crossed the Algarve again on 4 perfectly glassy days. So we took only 4 days to do the 160 Ks across the Algarve, and that was amazing. And then this trip again was incredible as well. So it definitely is about, if you have the opportunity to be able to travel by your own steam, like either walking or biking or paddling, I really urge you to take the opportunity to do it, because you'll really discover the country. And Portugal is such an amazing country waiting to be discovered. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Algarve Addicts.